Hello and welcome back, and today we're going to talk about the spicy margarita that is the subject of iX Systems, TrueNAS, and have they gone closed source? You may have heard lots of things being thrown around online, and for those of you that are considering moving your data into a TrueNAS or OpenZFS system, you're wondering, has suddenly the future got a little bit narrower or a little bit more ambiguous than you thought? Now, let's get down to brass tacks. It isn't closed source yet. And ultimately, nothing that I've heard so far makes me worried about that in the broader sense. There are concerns and there are worries, but ultimately it comes down to some of the future development of TrueNAS, a change in how the brand rolls it out, but also how they're openly and being more transparent on the development. Up until recently, it was pretty much exclusively the case that TrueNAS was developed with lots of public input. It was out there with open code, a public script, public builds, everything being remotely accessible, and communities having a great deal more of control over it, and also seeing the nuts and bolts. Now, the logic for this seems to come down onto two headings once you go by their public postings, forum posts, and have a look at the recent videos that the brand has rolled out. These are reasons of financial sustainability, but also better control of their software product once it gets out there in the wild, when we see a lot of paid platforms utilising OpenZFS systems and TrueNAS rebranded systems with almost zero callback to the original production. I kind of get that. We'll come back around to that one later on in the video. But now it looks like TrueNAS is going to be going into technically a three-door policy, 2.5 really. Number one, you've got TrueNAS Community Edition, the one that we've known for quite a while now, and that is going to remain the free platform. All of the bells and whistles and services we've got right now are going to remain. Nothing's really going to change in that score. And from the looks of things, it will continue to get fully featured development moving forward, with some features and services still coming to that platform down the road. But that is where that ambiguity lies. More on that in a moment. At the other end of the spectrum, you've got TrueNAS Enterprise. That's always been the jolly big bananas version with all the bells and whistles, and a lot of that comes with paid or premium services included. Now, where things change is TrueNAS Connect. That is kind of an on-ramp system for when you enter the free setup DIY system, and then start on-ramping onto more extravagant businessy services with free tiers, free transitional tiers, and paid tiers as well. And hopefully that is one of those ways in which they're going to remain sustainable. But they can't really do that if everything is totally out there in the open, because this brings us to that second point I mentioned earlier on. Things like this. This is from Harbour Innovations. This is an AI NAS. This is a Tower GPU NAS system that I'm currently reviewing here on the channel. And hopefully you can see the software there on screen, because frankly, it's TrueNAS. The software that's inside this device is TrueNAS with different colours and labels. And from what I understand, TrueNAS has seen diddly squat in terms of financial return on their software being used on this multi-$1,000 system there. This is just an example of how some of the work, the bells and the whistles, haven't really been integrated in a fair way. When we look at things like QNAP and their integration of ZFS on their platform, from what I understand, there has been licensing back and forth. Indeed, at a recent QNAP show that I attended, I think it was in November last year, they were talking about the development cycle of their platform. They actually worked out things they could do within ZFS, but decided to roll them out to do with expansions as the brand was going their own way. So there are ways in which you can work with iX Systems, OpenZFS, TrueNAS, name your flavour of choice and how you want to refer to it. But still, nonetheless, this does beg the question of that transparency. And long term, what about the future of your TrueNAS system? Now, let's pluck an example out of the air, something we talked about a while ago. In AnyRAID. AnyRAID is being currently developed right now and worked upon to allow you to have mix and match drives inside your system, where you can add multiple hard drives inside of different storage capacities and enjoy and still be able to take advantage of those larger capacities in a way that traditional RAIDs, be they RAID Z or the traditional other ones that have just existed for donkey's years, are unable to provide for you. Now, a lot of time, energy, and let's be honest, Wonga has gone into that development. Is that something that's only going to go into the enterprise? Only going to go into this on-ramp system? Now, there's an argument. Mixed RAID storage systems isn't really something the enterprise has. They prefer uniformity and buying in batches of drives and getting shot of them before they fail. But still, that is going to be a paid endeavor. And it's ambiguity like that that I think does require discussion. Also, if the development of TrueNAS's scripts, builds, whole, install as a whole package there becomes, I'm not going to say closed source, but I would say closed source adjacent to a point. I think a lot of users are not going to like the idea of that because they like being involved in the development of this platform and knowing its capabilities, its quirks and eccentricities. They're kind of used to it on the paid platforms from Synology to QNAP to Acer Store and more. But TrueNAS has always enjoyed something of an open door policy, which now feels like that door is slightly less ajar than it was. I do not envy IX Systems and what they're trying to do right now with TrueNAS because, frankly, we've spent the last 5 years watching it play out on other platforms. Great examples, Unraid. They had to put their prices up quite substantially, I think, just shy of 2 years ago when they suddenly realised a lot of their lifetime members had really been weighing things down quite substantially over time with putting little or anything into the kitty whatsoever. Look at PLEX Media Server. Huge job losses as they had to move on to a paid platform there because of the weight of the number of lifetime users. Now, TrueNAS didn't arrive with a lifetime subscription model. They didn't have a sudden injection of money early doors. They have existed hugely based on community and basing themselves around on those enterprise, that batch of enterprise users ultimately bringing in a lot of bunts. IX started rolling out its own turnkey NAS solutions many, many years ago. And although they are good, I do think the number of users that are going to buy an IX ready-built NAS system and they can build their own from scratch, and particularly in an age when certain components are starting to cost a pretty penny. Now, they could have gone down the Casa OS, Zimmer OS method. By the way, two platforms which are considerably less mature than TrueNAS or FreeNAS that came before it, but still nonetheless, arriving with a free entry tier and a $29 lifetime tier, that works for them. But I don't see that model ever working on TrueNAS and the scale that they work within. I'm probably going to be very unpopular here, and I do think there are users going to say that I'm missing the point on transparency, missing the point in terms of ambiguity on future developments and updates, but I'll say right now, I get it, and I think I'm on board with this because, frankly, they are a platform that has been running for free for so long, and so much of the weight of their user base is not paying a penny into the system. And by the way, I would also argue the number of users that give critical and useful feedback and development tips back to TrueNAS on their future versions make up a very small percentage of active users. I'll say right now, I get it. If you're going to have a paid premium platform, pay for it. If there's going to be a free platform there, and as long as they maintain it, I'm okay with it. And what is it, like $60 to take advantage of TrueNAS Connect in order to take advantage of more service and more of those bells and whistles and features at $60 a year, given the return on investment? I'm okay with it. I think right now we need to decide what's more important, that we want the TrueNAS platform to remain completely open source and free coded with the danger that brands can come along and start benefiting off the work of others, or we have to accept that there has to be a third way in 2026 for there to be free, paid, and something in between, and for that platform to remain sustainable and, more crucially, around this time next year. We've talked about it with PLEX unendingly, when we have got quite literally tens of millions of people using PLEX, and many of them have been riding the PLEX train for the better part of a decade without putting a penny in, but still wanting the highest results. I do think they could stand to be a little bit more transparent and committed to the updates moving forward, and perhaps a tiered system where we have something coming out that's going to remain on the enterprise platform for a given period of time, or this is going to be a purple extra that can only be for enterprise. I do think there could stand to be more clarity there, but at the very least they've ironed out that connect bit in the middle, and for that I approve. But let me know what you guys think, whether you're an existing TrueNAS user. Is this something that might be making you jump ship? If it is, I'd love to talk and find out why. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.